New York City, January 1948. A vacant lot on West 96th Street, between a tenement and a laundry. Full of the burnt-out furniture the firemen threw out a window 3 weeks ago. 3 boys are digging through it. One of them finds a metal plate. It is about the size of a postcard, and it is heavy. And when he wipes the soot off it with his sleeve, there is a face on it. He knows the face. Everybody knows the face. It is George Washington, and he is looking the wrong way round, because the plate is a mirror of him. The boy does not know what he is holding. He thinks it is a toy. He takes it home in his coat pocket. And in that pocket, on a cold Tuesday, is the end of the longest counterfeiting manhunt in the history of the United States Secret Service. 10 years. More than 5,000 bills. One denomination, and only one. Thousands of colored pins pushed into a map of Manhattan in a federal office downtown. A file so old the agents who opened it have been transferred, promoted, and retired, and the file is still open. It has a number on the cover, 880. Here is the part nobody believes. The money is terrible. Not terrible as in slightly off. Not terrible as in a trained eye can spot it. Terrible as in the man who makes it spells Washington wrong. He puts a T where the I goes. Wash, T, Ington, on every bill. For a decade. 2 other things you should keep in the back of your head. The most wanted counterfeiter in America is, at this moment, walking a dog. And the thing that finally catches him has nothing to do with money. So how does a 72-year-old junk man, printing the worst money in American history, outrun the United States Secret Service for 10 years and get away with it? To understand that, you have to meet him. And there is almost nothing to meet. His name is Emerich Juettner. He is born in Austria in 1876, and he comes to America young. And after that, the record goes quiet for about 50 years, which is the most honest thing anyone has ever written about him. He works. That's it. That's the biography. He is a machinist for a while. Then he is a building superintendent on the Upper West Side, which is a job that means you fix the boiler at 2 in the morning and nobody learns your name. He does that for something like 30 years. He marries. He has a son and a daughter. He raises them in an apartment where the rent is $25 a month. In 1937, his wife dies. And the strange thing, the thing that tells you more about Emerich Juettner than any court document, is what he does next, which is nothing. He does not move in with his children. He does not ask them for money. He does not tell them anything at all. He visits them on Sundays in a clean coat, and he sits, and he talks about the weather, and he goes home. His children do not know how he makes a living. They will not know for 11 years. They will find out from a newspaper. Here is how he makes a living. He gets a pushcart. He walks the west side, and he picks through what people throw away. Scrap metal, bottles, wire, rags. He sells it downtown by the pound. This is a real job in 1938. There are hundreds of men doing it. It pays a few dollars a week. At some point, he finds a dog in a garbage pile. Small, filthy, no collar. He keeps him. He names him Henry. So now do the arithmetic that Emerich Juettner does, sitting in a top-floor apartment in the fall of 1938 with a stub of a pencil at 62 years old. Rent is $25 a month. Junk brings in maybe $15, $20 if the week is good. Coal is money. Food is money. The dog eats. And he is 62, which in 1938 is not a number that gets you hired anywhere, ever again. The subtraction does not work. It does not work by a few dollars a week, which is the cruelest possible margin, because a few dollars a week is not a catastrophe. It is just a slow leak. It is losing the apartment in about a year, and after the apartment there is nothing under him but the street, and a depression that has been going on for 9 years and is not finished. So in the fall of 1938, he does the math, and it has exactly one answer he can live with. Now, this is normally the moment where you find out he was secretly somebody. The disgraced engraver, the Austrian printer's apprentice, the forger who did a job for the mob in 22 and got out clean. That is how these stories work. There is always a hidden past that makes the rest of it possible. There isn't one. He has never engraved anything. He has never printed anything. He has no training in lithography, no background in art, no chemistry, no criminal record of any kind at any point in 62 years of life. He does not know a single other criminal. He does not know how ink works. He has no skill, no plan past next week, no idea what he's doing. He is not a criminal mastermind. He is not. And that is precisely why this works. Because he is not trying to beat the money. He is not trying to beat the paper, or the ink, or the engraving, or the treasury, or any of the 8 things the United States government built specifically to stop men like him. He is trying to beat the 2 seconds a tired man spends looking at a dollar. And nobody in Washington has ever built a defense against that. Most people think the Secret Service exists to protect the president. That is not what it is for, not originally. The Secret Service is founded in 1865, and the job it is founded to do is this one: hunting counterfeiters. Presidential protection is an afterthought, bolted on decades later, after a president gets shot and somebody in Washington notices there is no agency assigned to the problem. The counterfeiting came first. It came first because in the 1860s, by some estimates, as much as 1/3 of the currency circulating in the United States is fake. Not a scandal, a structural condition. The dollar is barely a promise. So the government spends the next 70 years making the dollar impossible. By 1938, when a junk man in a top-floor apartment sits down with a magnifying glass, this is what he is up against. 8 layers. Count them. 1. The paper. It is not paper you can buy. It is a cotton and linen blend made under federal contract, and woven into the pulp are tiny red and blue silk fibers, distributed randomly, impossible to print. You can feel them with a fingernail. Juettner uses office bond from a stationery store. Failed. 2. The ink. Proprietary formula, Bureau of Engraving and Printing, mixed in a building with guards on it. He uses commercial printing ink. The green is the wrong green. It is not even close to the wrong green. Failed. 3. The engraving. A federal plate engraver trains for something like 10 years before he is allowed to touch a live plate. 10 years to cut lines into steel that a human hand should not be able to cut. Juettner teaches himself, on a kitchen table, on zinc, with a magnifying glass propped against a coffee can. He is 62. Failed, and not narrowly. 4. The lathe work. Those hypnotic spiral patterns in the border of a bill are cut by a geometric lathe, a machine. They exist for one reason, which is that no hand can draw them. His borders are drawn by hand. They wobble. You can see him getting tired across the width of the bill. Failed. 5. The portrait. Washington has to be alive. The whole craft of currency engraving is in the eyes and the shading of the jaw. His Washington looks like a cartoon of a disappointed uncle. Failed. 6. The serial numbers. Every bill carries a unique number, in a specific block, in a specific font, with a specific letter prefix. The number is the bill's fingerprint. Juettner prints the same serial number on every single bill he ever makes. All 5,000 of them. The same number. For 10 years. That one isn't a failure. That is a confession left at the scene, repeated 5,000 times. 7. The treasury seal. Fine scalloped teeth around the rim. You can count them. Counterfeiters get caught on the teeth. His seal is a green smudge. Failed. 8. Spelling. Wash. T. Nengton. Failed. 8 defenses. He fails all 8. He fails them so completely that when a Secret Service examiner finally puts one of these bills under a lamp, he does not need the lamp. He needs a second to be sure it isn't a joke. The agency's own men will describe it, in writing, as the worst counterfeit they have ever seen. Not one of the worst, the worst. So the case should take a week. It takes 10 years. Because there is a 9th defense. Nobody at the Treasury has ever written it down. Nobody has ever tested it, or funded it, or put a man in charge of it. And it is the only one that matters. Here is the thing about all 8 of those layers. Every one of them is a test. And a test requires somebody to sit the test. The silk fibers only work if a fingernail goes looking for them. The lathe work only works if an eye follows the spiral. The serial number only works if somebody reads it, and remembers it, and reads the next one. 8 beautiful, expensive, federally engineered defenses, and every single one of them is dead metal unless a human being decides, in the moment, to care. That is the 9th layer, attention. And the Secret Service, being a rational organization staffed by rational men, has already made a decision about it. In 1938, counterfeiting cases are triaged by denomination. Hundreds first, 50s, 20s, 10s, ones are last. Ones are almost not a crime. The logic is unassailable. A counterfeiter has fixed costs: the press, the plates, the paper, the risk of a federal sentence. He pays those costs once, so he wants the biggest possible return per bill. Nobody sane goes to prison for $1. And it runs the same in reverse on the government side. It costs more to chase a fake dollar than the dollar is worth. Spending federal hours on ones is a losing trade, so they don't. It is a small, sensible, defensible decision, and it opens a corridor of blindness straight through the middle of the American economy, about a decade long and $1 wide. Emerich Juettner does not know any of this. He has no idea the Secret Service triages by denomination. He is not exploiting a policy. He picks the $1 bill because it is the only bill he can imagine handing to a person without his hands shaking, and because $1 is what a loaf of bread and a can of dog food cost. He walks into the blind spot by accident, and he stays in it for 10 years, because he never wants more. He isn't fooling the paper. He isn't fooling the ink. He is fooling the eye. But he wasn't looking at the treasury. He was looking at a cash register, and at the 2 seconds a tired man spends over it. The press comes first. He buys it secondhand, somewhere in Manhattan, from a man selling off a dead print shop. It is a small lithographic press, old, the kind a job printer uses for handbills and funeral cards. It is not stolen. It is not smuggled. He pays for it with real money, in cash, and he tells the seller his name is Edward Mueller. That is the entire criminal tradecraft of Emerich Juettner. One false name, said once, to a man who was never going to remember him anyway. He gets it up to the apartment, top floor. He did not choose the top floor for the light, or the view, or the rent. He chose it because nobody walks past your door on the top floor. And then he starts, and this is where you have to slow down, because the popular version of this story makes him a lovable old rascal, and the actual work is not lovable. It is grinding, zinc plate on the kitchen table, magnifying glass propped up against something, a 40-watt bulb, because a 100-watt bulb costs more to run. He is cutting a portrait of George Washington into metal with a hand tool, freehand, at 62 years old, having never done it before. His hands shake. That is not a metaphor. You can see it in the bills. The borderlines waver, then steady, then waver again. And what you are actually reading there is a man's grip failing and being forced back for another hour. The apartment smells like solvent. In summer, it is unbearable, and he cannot open the windows wide because the smell of printing ink coming out of a junk man's window is the one thing that would end this in an afternoon. So he prints in a closed room in August. He cuts the bills apart with scissors, not a guillotine, not a trimmer, scissors, which is why the edges are never straight and why the bills are never quite the same size, and why any bank teller in New York who laid 2 of them side by side would have had him in about 4 seconds. This takes him weeks, and at the end of the weeks, he holds up the result, and he can see what it is. He is not delusional. He has eyes. He knows the green is wrong and the face is wrong and the paper is wrong. He knows that what he has made is garbage, and he goes out and spends it anyway. Because here is what he understands, and what almost nobody in the history of this crime has understood. He is not making a bill that survives inspection. He is making a bill that survives 1.5 seconds in the hand of a man who is thinking about something else. So the real method, the thing that actually beats the United States government for a decade, is not on the kitchen table. It is a set of rules he writes for himself and never breaks. 1. Never more than 1 bill in a single store. 2. Never the same store twice in a month. Some accounts say he stretched it further and would not go back to a place for a year. 3. Never more than a few dollars a week. Total, not per store. Total. 4. Never buy anything expensive. Never buy anything memorable. Cigarettes, bread, dog food. 5. Never tell anyone. Not a partner, not a fence, not a friend at the bar, not his son, not his daughter. Look at that list again. There is no technology in it. There is no cleverness in it. It is a diet. And now look at every other counterfeiter in the history of the Secret Service, because they all die the same death. It goes like this. You build a plate. The plate costs you months. So you print in volume, because the plate is a fixed cost, and volume is the only way to earn it back. Volume means you now have 10,000 bills in a closet, which you cannot spend yourself, so you need distributors. Distributors need to be paid, so you need a cut structure, so you need a network. And a network is just a list of people who can trade you for a lighter sentence. Every counterfeiter is caught by his own ambition, not by the paper, by the arithmetic of wanting more. Juettner does not want more. He does not want to be rich. He is not building an empire, or a nest egg, or a nightclub. He wants to eat dinner, feed his dog, and keep an apartment that costs $25 a month. His greed is capped at about $15 a week, and that cap is the most effective piece of counterfeiting technology anyone deploys in the 20th century. He prints what he needs. He needs almost nothing. So he prints almost nothing. And a man printing almost nothing is not a crime wave. He is background noise. Every one of those 8 defenses catches him instantly. Not one of them can find him. Because a defense only works if somebody is looking, and nobody looks at a dollar. He breaks his own rules once. Just once, and not on purpose. And it takes them 9 more years to notice. We'll come back to that. Late 1938, a drugstore on the west side. An old man comes in and buys a pack of cigarettes. He puts $1 on the counter. The clerk picks it up without looking at it, because he is looking at the old man, who is saying something about the weather. The register opens. 90 cents comes back in change. That's it. That's the crime. It takes 4 seconds. He walks out with 90 cents of real United States currency and a pack of cigarettes. And behind him, in a drawer, is a piece of office bond with a misspelling on it, headed for a bank. Now watch what he does with the next 10 years, because the technique is inside the details, and the details are all backwards. He does not spend in empty stores. He spends in busy ones. Everybody's instinct says the opposite. Wait until it's quiet. No witnesses, nobody watching. He goes at the busiest hour, when there is a line behind him and a clerk with 6 things to do, because a witness is not the danger. Being noticed is the danger, and nothing kills noticing like a cue. He does not hurry, he talks. He asks about the man's kids. He complains about his knees. He is a neighborhood old man, and there is one in every store in New York, and he is the least interesting thing in the room. Nobody checks the money of a man who is talking to them. And he never buys anything worth having. Cigarettes, a loaf of bread, a tin of dog food. Never a suit, never a watch, never a bottle of anything. There is nothing to remember and nothing to describe. So it goes. 1941, Pearl Harbor. The country turns itself inside out overnight, and every clerk in Manhattan is thinking about a brother in the Pacific. He pushes the cart and he spends $1. 1944, rationing, blackout drills. Bond drives on every corner, pleading with people to look closely at their money and hand it over for the war. He pushes the cart, and he spends $1. 1945. It ends. The city loses its mind in Times Square. He pushes the cart. He spends $1. 1947. There is a television in the window of a store on Broadway. He is 71. He pushes the cart. He spends $1. An entire world reorganizes itself around him. Depression, war, victory. The beginning of the American century. And Emerich Juettner does not change one single thing about his week, because the day he changes anything is the day somebody notices him. He isn't fooling the paper, he isn't fooling the ink, he is fooling the eye. And the eye is tired, and the eye is busy, and the eye has a war to think about. It nearly ends once. Somewhere in those years, a bank teller actually does it. He pulls one of Juettner's bills out of a deposit, and he stops, and he holds it up, and he looks at it. Really looks at it, the way the 8 defenses need to be looked at. The green is wrong, the border wobbles, the seal is a smear, and he puts it in the drawer, because it is $1. Because there are 200 people behind the line. Because pulling it means a form, and a call, and a federal officer, and an afternoon of your life, over $1. The system saw him, and the system decided he wasn't worth the paperwork. Somewhere downtown, in a room he will never see, a man is pushing a pin into a map. It is not the first pin. It is not the 100th. Change the camera now. Turn it around, because for 10 years, there has been a second story running underneath this one, in an office building in Lower Manhattan, and in that story, Emerich Juettner is not an old man with a dog. He is a monster. The New York field office of the Secret Service has a map of Manhattan on the wall. Every time one of these bills surfaces, a bank, a merchant, a deposit slip, somebody pushes a colored pin into the place it came from. The pins go in for a decade. There are thousands of them by the end. The file is number 880, and 880 is a problem, because 880 will not close. They have everything except him. They have hundreds of specimens. They have a laboratory. They have professional engravers on staff who go over his lines under magnification and write reports describing exactly how bad he is. They can tell you the plate is zinc. They can tell you it is hand-cut. They can tell you the ink is commercial, and the paper is bond, and the man cannot spell. They know the bill to the micron. They have no idea who he is. And here is where it gets cruel, because the Secret Service does not fail out of stupidity. They fail out of competence. They reason from the evidence, correctly, like professionals, and every correct step takes them further away. Look at the serial number, the analysts say. It repeats. Every bill, the same number. What does that mean? It means volume. A man who prints one bill at a time varies his numbers. A repeated number means a run. A big run, printed all at once, sitting in a warehouse somewhere. So there is a stockpile. And a stockpile can't be spent by one man. So there is distribution. And distribution means a crew. Passers, a fence, someone organizing them, someone taking a cut. So this is an organization. Somewhere out there is a boss, a warehouse, a payroll, a hierarchy. Find one passer and the whole thing unzips. Every inference is logical. Every inference is airtight. Every inference is wrong. And then there's the map, which is the worst of all, because the map is trying to tell them the truth, and they cannot hear it. Look at the pins. They cluster. Almost all of them fall inside roughly a square mile of the Upper West Side. Tight, dense, 10 years deep. To a federal investigator, that cluster reads one way. This is the network's territory. This is the ground the organization controls. It isn't territory. It's the walking radius of a 70-year-old man with a bad hip and a small dog who will not go more than about 20 blocks from home, because the dog gets tired, and so does he. They are hunting an organization. The organization is one man, one dog, and a handcart, and it never leaves the neighborhood. So case 880 goes nowhere. For 10 years it goes nowhere. And then, in December of 1947, on a cold night on West 96th Street, something catches fire. The fire is small. Nobody dies. It is a fire in a building on West 96th Street on a cold night, and the firemen do what firemen did in 1947, which is get the burning things out of the room by the fastest available route. The fastest available route is the window. So furniture goes out, junk goes out. A junk man's apartment is full of things that look like nothing, and all of it lands 4 floors down in a vacant lot next door, in a heap, in the dark. In that heap, a zinc plate with George Washington on it, and a stack of uncut $1 bills. Nobody picks it up. Not the firemen, not the police, not the landlord. It is trash in a lot full of trash, and it sits there, in the open air, in the middle of a city, where federal agents have spent 10 years looking for exactly that object, and then the boys find it. They are neighborhood kids, and it is a vacant lot, which in 1947 is what a playground is. They dig. They find the plate, and they find the bills, and they do not think crime, because why would they? They think toy. They think money you can play store with. They take it home in their pockets and they play with it for weeks. Eventually, and the accounts differ on exactly when and exactly which kid, one of them shows his father, and the father looks at a metal plate with the President of the United States engraved on it backwards, and he does not think toy. He calls the police. The police call the Secret Service. And in the New York field office, someone opens file number 880 for the last time. 10 years of federal investigation, thousands of agent hours, thousands of pins in a map, laboratory analysis, engraving experts, a theory of an organized network with a warehouse and a boss. And the case breaks because a kid showed his father a toy. January 13th, 1948. Agents go to the top floor of 204 West 96th Street, and they knock. The door opens. There is a small, thin man in the doorway. He is 72 years old. There is a dog behind his legs. He does not run. There is nowhere to run, and he is 72. He does not deny it. He does not ask for a lawyer, or invent a story, or point at somebody else, because there is nobody else, and there never was. He shows them the press. What he says in that room, how he explains 10 years to a federal agent, what his voice does, is not in any transcript I have been able to find. So I'm not going to put words in his mouth. What we have is what he does, and what he does is stand aside and let them look. They find the plate, they find the ink, and the bond paper, and the scissors, and the magnifying glass, and the 40-watt bulb. They find no warehouse, no stockpile, no crew. Then it goes to court, and the numbers get embarrassing. 10 years. The longest counterfeiting hunt in the agency's history to that point. Thousands of hours of federal investigative time, laboratory work, expert analysis, and a decade of an unclosable file sitting on somebody's desk. Total amount recovered, across the entire 10 years, somewhere around $5,000, $500 a year. The United States government spent a decade and a fortune chasing a man whose annual criminal income would not cover a month of one agent's salary. The judge has the file in front of him. He also has Emerich Juettner in front of him. 72, no record, no accomplices, no violence, no victim who lost more than $1. A man whose entire 10-year criminal enterprise was buying dog food. The sentence is 1 year and 1 day. The fine is $1. The fine is $1. The court does not specify which kind. He serves about 4 months. He is out by that summer, on probation, and he goes home to the Upper West Side. His children find out from the newspaper. 11 years of Sundays in a clean coat, talking about the weather, and they learn what their father does for a living from a headline. He comes out with nothing. No money, no press, no trade. 72 years old, and now with a federal conviction on him. And then Hollywood calls. 1950. 20th Century Fox buys the story. They pay him about $1,000 for it. The film is called Mr. 880. Edmund Gwenn plays him, the same actor who played Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street 3 years earlier, which is a piece of casting so on the nose it should be illegal. Gwenn gets nominated for an Academy Award for it. So run the numbers one more time. 10 years of federal crime pays Emerich Juettner about $500 a year. 90 minutes of film pays him $1,000 in a single check, legally, with his name on it. The counterfeiting was never the good business. The story was, he never fooled the paper, he never fooled the ink, he fooled the eye. And when the eye finally looked at him, it bought a ticket. He dies in 1955, at 79. The Secret Service kept one of his bills, not as evidence. The case is closed, the man is dead, there is nothing left to prove. They keep it as an object lesson. It is the worst counterfeit ever printed in the United States. A piece of office bond with a hand-shaken border and a smeared seal, and the president's name spelled wrong, and it hangs on a wall, and people walk past it. Every day. Almost none of them stop to look. Which, if you think about it, is exactly how he did it.